Hi Gemini women, welcome to your Alchemy of Relating spread for February 2017. This I Ching spread is aimed at helping you get insight into the influences affecting your current relationships. So the first and second card, these two right here, are meant to give you an understanding about the ground upon which each of you stands, and it indicates the factors influencing the roots or foundations of this groundedness. These cards will help reveal where each partner is at this point in the relationship. They're going to show you the strengths of the relationship, but they will also give you a clue as to what is undermining security in either one of you. So here we go with the first one. We have discipline. So discipline, when the time to mobilize the army has risen, it is a clarion call for self-discipline and much-needed clarity that is stripped of emotional excess and undaunted by mounting chaos. It's going to seem that you're surrounded by undermining forces that are trying to chip away at the foundation of all you stand for. It's not the time to act hastily or to allow present conditions to continue without you intervening. It's not going to change of its own accord. It's going to need your intervention. You may be experiencing your own reserves dwindling, and you can ill afford to wait any longer for others to come to the rescue. By not taking matters in hand now, you risk being drawn into emotional tangles or swept up in conflict that will only get worse. To achieve long-term objectives, you must avoid to go for the quick fix. Cutting your losses by taking the easy way out might seem to satisfy an understandable desire for resolution, Gemini, but the effect of such actions can only be short-term. Whether you are in a position of leadership and your actions affect many, or the conflict you face is within your own consciousness, you are being tested to the max now. So the spotlight is on the urgent need to handle your diminishing resources. And whether the challenge you face is social, spiritual, or physical, the fact remains that you cannot afford to be immature or undisciplined. So, Gemini, marshal all your strength and take care of the situation now, and don't leave any details or stone unturned. Do not relax. This will need all your skill. However horrible the current situation might seem, you should consider different angles of approaching it before you take action. Getting an overview of the situation will help you develop the right strategy. Don't be anxious and don't fall prey to reactionary tactics. If you confront others head-on, it will only create resentment and a desire for revenge. And although the opposition may not be obvious, it is wise to play it very close to the hip in order to plan your next moves in privacy. Don't shy away from or deny the powerful energy that wants to forcefully assert itself through you now. Work to harness it and be creative to find a solution. You might have to act alone, or you might have companions. But just like diffusing a bomb, the situation that confronts you now will require patience and skill. Your success will benefit you and those around you. So let's see what is in the position of the partner. We have the receptive. The receptive is yielding and passive. It is the sign of devotion, the yin principle that complements and balances the creative, the yang principle. The symbols are the earth, the cow, and not something strong like dragon. Together they comprise a complete cosmology, out of which life is brought into being and to which it returns at death. In human life, the most obvious manifestation of yin and yang is the relationship between female and male. However, the interdependence of these principles is also present in the relationship between parent and child, teacher and student, guru and disciple. and within each of us in the apparent duality of our sensory physical experience and the more subtle spiritual experiences, or the body and the soul of being. Receptivity is dependent on the dynamic spark of creative inspiration to be activated into productivity, just as creativity is dependent on and nourished by the fertile ground of emptiness. When the receptive complements the creative, it functions as a womb, an empty canvas on which an infinite variety of creations can be made manifest. Receptivity is a fine balance. It is docile, open, and nurturing, and it is intensely devoted and strong to persevere through the difficult times. Negatively, it can be envious, complaining, and competing for authority, generating chaos and dissolution. Or else, like a couch potato, does nothing but wallow in passivity and indolence. The strength of receptivity is in its depth, its infinite capacity to absorb and support action. Just like the darkness of space which sustains all matter, it is a reminder that this is not the moment to act impulsively, but to take time, give space, and consider the far-reaching effects of any action that might be taken. Pushing now will only steer one away from their goal. Waiting does not equal weakness. Once you put the full weight of your support behind anything, they can't be helped but be strengthened by it. Any enticements towards making their own power plays or claiming their share of the limelight could be untimely. The power of their presence is bolstered by their total devotion to the way they intuit is the wise way to go. Knowing clearly where and with whom to invest their energies will require cool, detached perspectives. By carefully examining the other's objective, they will support the plans that ring true for themselves. Lao Tzu referred to the Tao as the Divine Mother, that in her absolute emptiness is eternally birthing all things in the cosmos itself. The essence of emptiness is present within each of us, and like a blank slate, receives whatever we write upon it. The dark vast of qualities of yin are indeed great, and to appreciate its support is to be humbled in gratitude. Okay, so making room for the next card. We have revolution. So, what is revolution about? Revolution is a time of breakthrough, when often in spite of our own desires, the old drops away and is replaced by the new. No snake, Gemini, ever resists shedding its skin, however uncomfortable the experience may be. And I'm just going to interject right here. This third card, and soon to be this next fourth card, depict the emotional climate. They focus on the dynamic that supports the harmony within each of you and on the challenges that each partner faces in assuming greater responsibility to clear up discord or unblock communication. These cards are in the heart position and as such can uncover areas of vulnerability and lack of trust. They can also shed light on emotional wounds and on the hidden fears and habits we have developed to camouflage them. So, we have the revolution for yourself, Gemini, and we have what I will soon read to you after this. Let's begin again with revolution. Revolution is a time of breakthrough, when, often in spite of our own desires, the old drops away and is replaced by the new. No snake ever resists shedding its skin, however uncomfortable the experience may be. But we humans have a tendency to resist transformative change by failing to appreciate it as a renewing and essential quality of life. If wherever you turn the outlook appears shrunken, dry, and limiting, it's probably because life is urgently trying to tell you something. It's obvious that you wouldn't consider walking in the shoes you wore as a child because the pain would be excruciating and drastically limit your movement. But on the more subtle psychological level, we all tend to overlook the warning signs when a change is overdue. Remembering the discomfort of those tight little shoes, Gemini, will enable you to gain some insight into the real choices you are facing now. The most important choice is whether you go willingly with the strong transforming current that is active now, or whether you expend energy resisting it and going down, kicking and screaming. Either way, there are going to be big changes. Revolution emphasizes taking a quantum leap, whether you think you're ready or not, and remaining bound to what you've outgrown, will become difficult and restrictive until you're finally brought to a standstill because of it. Growth is not an easy process. It's risky and sometimes frightening, but courage and fortitude help us to become stronger and more aware. Let go of whatever it is you're clinging to, an identity, a place, or thing. It might seem impossible, but once you feel the truth of it, it can be exciting. The taste of the freedom when you disengage from these habitual behavior will stimulate new behavior. What you once perceived to be a breakdown will look like a breakthrough. This is like the myth of the phoenix, the bird that rises from the ashes of its previous self. Becoming attuned to the qualities of the phoenix means learning to live without guarantees. Drop worrying about how to get it right. What is needed is trust that the surging current of success will take you where you really need to be. So create as much space as possible to make room for the new. Become a witness to the mind's preoccupation with your past and future, and try to continually bring it back to the present. It's a tremendously empowering moment as it roots you in the here and now. And life will take on a different quality when all the dust settles. So we have the next one, 29, which is the abysmal. So the abysmal represents a little danger. No matter what direction you turn, there seems to be a little difficulty, and it seems too dark to make out just what the difficulty is. It seems to be made worse by increasing deluge of problems. It can feel a little bit like being pummeled by an unending torrent. There's nothing abstract about the danger, and it's not just a drama, but the very nature of this time is that you will feel uncertain about how to deal with it. So, all the right ingredients are in place to generate fear, confusion, and panic. But whatever circumstances have come to make this, it's important not to let emotions take over. Panic has a way of feeding more panic, and confusion has a way of creating more confusion. And all this together can create a vortex that throws you right away from the very center where you need to be standing in order to cope with the situation at hand. In fact, times of danger always carry the potential to reveal the inner resources and courage that form the foundations of a life well and truly lived. It is courage that allows us to go beyond our learned and habitual modes of behavior and tap into the qualities that transcend the boundaries of the known and familiar. Thankfully, we don't often find ourselves in dangers that are not of our own making. But when they do arise, it is wise to remember the extraordinary opportunities they bring. It is time to assume the way of the warrior. Until the danger is past, devote yourself to dealing only with what is essential. Give up on temptations to run away. Fear, when it's dispassionately observed, can be a powerful energy that you can use for focus and centering yourself. Harness this energy to bring sharpness to your senses. The way of the warrior might seem too harsh for your sensibilities, and try a way of cat. Be aware and alert, and with the subtle certainty that there is an ability to be utterly still and patient, and wait for the right moment when springing for that mouse. Whatever choice you make to deal with this situation, crystal clarity of awareness will help you. Go straight to the core of dangers. The best course is to continually return to a place which is centered and is not swayed by emotions. Therefore, you can weigh things in balance, and you can approach the situation impartially, and you'll get through anything. All right, so we have the final cards, the 5th and 6th cards. This will be for you, Gemini, here. Okay. So these cards focus on the state of mind, on the perceptions, the longings, the hopes, and the fears of each partner, and your attitude towards them. This position can be the catalyst for breakthrough in your relationship. It can help you acquire a new perspective by supporting you in approaching the relationship more openly and without being defensive. Being open to receiving the guidance offered here can help both of you view your connection through fresh eyes. So this one represents your position in this matter, and it's hexagram number 62. And hexagram 62 is known as small is beautiful. As you see this beautiful tiny little butterfly, anything you take on right now, Gemini, should be handled as though it were a butterfly's wings. This delicate time requires a realistic consideration of both your limitations and capacities, so that you can be honest about what you can and can't do. Be conscientious, but be true to yourself. The Tao continuously restores equilibrium by relieving excess. If you've become maxed out in some area, it's time to slow down. You can't afford to project an in-demand cruising in the fast lane image, because that might tip the scales. We tend to believe that busy is good and silent is boring. That ideal can keep us flooring the gas pedal even when the tank is empty and we're running on fumes. Then we lurch to a full stop and wonder what happened. At the first sign that you need to simplify, ease off and cut back. So, you might need to start relaxing a little bit more. If you're doing too much working, shopping, driving, you need to check in and remember to breathe. Don't need to judge yourself. We all in this world need to fight to slow down a little bit. And appreciating the need to retreat can take maturity. But go with the flow of nature and indulge in a childlike attitude. And this will release tension and stress. Learn to trust that life provides without your having to struggle to make it happen. But you don't need to drop the ball. Make peace with your vulnerability, Gemini, by incorporating the remembrance of life's transitory nature in all that you do. Lao Tzu wrote, "Practice not doing, and everything will fall into place." So, humility can make this possible. Respecting how delicate and precious this life is engenders humility and the willingness to live in accordance with the way of the Tao. Wow. So, last one for the partner. Following hexagram number 17. This final card, if you're curious, is going to be insight into what's going to harmonize the entire relationship. And we'll be with that one in a little bit. But first, let's go to the following. The I Ching texts counsel that in order to lead, one must know how to follow. There is an art to both. They depend on one another to exist. Without followers, leaders would have no one to lead and would serve no purpose. Without leaders to look up to as teachers and guides, followers would be without role models for their highest aspirations. The best teachers are selflessly devoted not to what is being taught, but to those under their tutelage. Ultimately, their task is to catalyze understanding and self-awareness. The best leaders keep it always in mind that the ultimate goal is to finally set each follower firmly on his or her own individual course. This process can never conform to a set of uniform rules or guidelines. So this might be saying that, Gemini, your partner needs to be more of the leader or needs to learn to follow you. I would say with a card like this that probably your partner is the leader at this point and needs to remember some of the lessons they learned when they were following. Remember, it's parasitic to prey on others in order to fulfill one's own ambitions. Manipulating people in order to force their compliance can create mistrust. So, and on the other side, it's vital to stretch, to grow, and to realize our full potential. This doesn't have anything to do with how old one is. In their quest for guidance, it's important to stay in touch with the voice of inner truth, and you can help your partner do that, definitely, Gemini. This card requires absolute honesty and sincere self-scrutiny to discern the difference between being swept up emotionally by one's own needs and hearing the voice of sincere inner guidance. The best way to know that you are following truth is to check out whether what you are doing provides a deep sense of meaning and purpose to life. So that's really going to help the relationship with the female Gemini. Let's see the last card. The Insight card. Insight represents the alchemy of your conjoined qualities as reflected in the here and now. And we have hexagram number 31, which is influence. So this is a beautiful card. Mutual attraction is stimulating. It is magnetic, deeply energizing dynamic between two people that can be profoundly enriching or simply acting out of compulsiveness and the need for self-gratification. The critical difference lies in whether or not there is genuine mutual respect. Keep things in perspective when the emotional climate is heating up, and balance can be maintained by taking periodic breaks that allow both parties to step back from the intensity. This capacity to keep a distance enables trust to develop and creates space for the natural rhythms between people to evolve. In the early stages of a strong mutual attraction, it is more than challenging to pull back and cool down, especially when everything inside you is driven by passion. But in any event, the passage of time will surely turn down the heat, and being able to consider the relationship in the light of less obvious passions enables you to anticipate this natural process. In this way, even at the outset, a passionate relationship is given a far better chance to mature and ripen, rather than burn out from intensity and go stale and flat. The power of attraction has been exploited in the media ad nauseum, and we are constantly assaulted by the use of sensual and sexual imagery to sell everything from candy to cars, fashion, etc. We're subjected to hundreds of such images, and it's difficult to desensitize ourselves to the subtlety of natural attraction. There is a danger once our desire for meaningful relationships becomes distorted by a preference for flawless fantasies over human reality. So really get in touch with your natural attraction to one another, whether that might mean going into natural settings like taking a walk in the park or going to a nearby waterfall or hike. That might help you start to see each other as real human beings. In the presence of genuine affection, everything seems to click without effort, and there's a willingness to work with all kinds of drawbacks that in a less attractive circumstance might be reasons to not go any farther. So experiencing natural magnetism is a living lesson of the universal laws of yin and yang. Spontaneous one-on-one exchanges between complementary and unique individuals is the expression, on human terms, of that interchanging between the active yang and the passive receptive yin. This free-flowing dance of energy creates a natural high where the outlook seems rosier, the impossible is possible, and the ordinary becomes extraordinary. It is nature with a capital N, and it's juicy. So a balanced relationship is not a dependency, but an interdependence. It should feel more like an ongoing happening rather than something static and safe. So whatever it is, it might even be going and seeing a movie that takes place in nature. I hope that Gemini, you can figure that out this month. So this was done with the Tao Oracle, and the artist was Ma Deva Padma, and I definitely recommend picking up your set on Amazon. Other than that, I'll see you next month. I'm going to post also the Gemini male, and of course, if you're dating a Gemini female, this reading can apply to you. Also check out your sign as well. And make sure you subscribe. Thanks for listening.